Chattisfying.
And one thing that I do want to point out is that in Ocarina of Time, if you die, which there's really not much of a risk, because again, the targeting system trivialized the battle. You know, it was meant to be more difficult, and then they said, well, it can't be impossible. We got to give you targeting, and then that just made it so that it was pointless. But in the event that you somehow did die to a boss, you did start back at the front of the dungeon with 3 hearts, and you had to go find a fairy. And just because we play Ocarina of Time a lot and we know where all the fairy fountains are, you have to put yourself back into the position of being, this is my first time playing this game. If I die to Phantom Ganon, do I know that I have to go back down to the Sacred Forest Meadow and climb a ladder and jump into that fairy fountain? I don't know until I know. And so the same thing with A Link to the Past. You don't know where those fairies are until you find them. Same thing with Breath of the Wild. You don't know that those fairies are at the fairy fountains until you find them. And then once you do, knowing is half the battle. You still have to get to that place. And so if I die in Breath of the Wild, which I probably will, you know, I played Breath of the Wild, and I will in Tears of the Kingdom, going back and being like, well, I just need to get a bunch of fairies, which thank God it was actually more of like an inventory system where it's not you have to hold them in a bottle, you just get to have them, so you can have as many as you want, up to 999. But especially in the older games where it's like, okay, you got a bottle and you got to put a fairy in it, and then once you're out of that fairy, you got to put another fairy in there, or you don't have any fairies. Again, with that, if you know where the fairies are, then it's just it's literally exactly the same system as Ocarina of Time. You know, Link to the Past and Ocarina of Time have the same system. However, you are going to lose hearts faster in Link to the Past. The battle is more difficult because, again, no targeting system, and also you have to be aware of which side of the enemy that you're on, because it's kind of similar to like if every enemy was a Stalfos, you know, but like one side is always protected either with their sword or a shield, and then you have to be on the other side, and can you get to that other side with a D-pad, you know? So yeah, I do think that it does make it a little bit more difficult, but again, I think that the difficulty aids in the rewarding factor of it all.
Yeah, absolutely.
Chattisfied.